Okay, guys, in the boardroom on the table, I don't know if you're there. Are you? Okay, the sheet was printed out. Good. We'll run through it. Yeah. It's one that I posted on the chat, so you can see it on your phone. You have to lock it, right? Go sideways. Just not to explain everything here, but just there's basically plots, all the things he mentions in the three categories. So category one of Torah, he'll come back to the end of the Maamor. Now he's talking about the three categories of Torah, Yerusha, we're calling it Avodah. That's the mission of Pirkei Avos, Hasken Atzmacha. And Matana, so in the Maamor till the end, which we haven't gotten to yet, he's explaining these three revelations of godliness or conduct, Hanhagas, that the Eibishter conducts himself with Yidden. So the first one is Yerusha, like inheritance, which is unearned. So this is an empowerment that comes from above. Nesias Chen, it's God being gracious. And it's the kind of Nesias Chen that we find by Noach, that basically it's unearned, undeserved. There's no obstruction to it. Noach was a nice guy, but there was no avodah. So that's a Sarusa de Leila, that's an arouser from above that empowers us to begin the journey of avodah. Then comes avodah. That's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, which states Torah is not an inheritance, but you've got to fix yourself and devote yourself, because that's the stage two. Now let's take all of the nakudas that the Maamor mentioned, all part of this category. As I wrote, I don't know if you can see it, but there's pencil letters, and those penciled letters indicate which ois this is mentioned. So Yerusha Avodah Matona, which I wrote not in script, but in a printed word. See the aleph by each one, because that's mentioned in the first ois. So now going to Avodah. So what's the Avodah? The Avodah is Bakshu Pane. Hashem says, seek my face. And you're devoting himself to Hashem, which elicits God's response, Pana Yelecho. Much of this Maamor, at least this part, Avodah and Matana, is in the dialogue between Hashem and the Eibishter post Chet HaEgel in Parshas Kisisa. So Hashem says, Pana Yelecho, I will lead you. This is after Moishe Rabbeinu's protest. Hashem said he will send an angel to guide the Yidden. And Moishe Rabbeinu protested it. He said, we want you. So Hashem said he will. And that's as a result of us seeking God, his pnimius, bepnimius, seeking his pnimius with pnimius. What does that elicit? It elicits God's pnimius back, God's face. What's the Eibishter's face? That's Amshachas Malchus, Datzilus. That's the drawing down of Malchus Datzilus. And in brackets, Keser Malchus, he said, Malchus as it's rooted in Keser. And in this pnimius revelation of godliness comes derech ma'ivir, uncompromised all the way down to conducting us in Olam Hazeh. So we're all the recipients of an effusion of the divine face, as it were, Panai. The result of that is Hashem continues in his response to Moshe Rabbeinu, I will lead you, and Anichaisi can also explain, the Maamor explains it means not just lead, but menucha, you'll have rest, relieve you of your enemies, and there'll be nisim and iflois. Now, all of this is explained in Ois Vav, and Ois Zayim, and Ois Ches. This is all reflective of our divine relationship with God that is expressed in Das Tachten. As the Maamor pointed out, Das Tachten is not merely our obscured view, but rather a legitimate relationship with Hashem, which comes as a result of Hashem relating to us. in a finite way, ultimately, Tzimtzum, and therefore Mitzrayim, and Gevuris, Shem Elikim, seer of the moon reflective of the sun, because this is not the pure, infinite divine revelation. That's Shem Havaya. This is a divine revelation that is filtered through Seder Shtalshalut. It's all Kedusha. Tzilus is being Nimshach Lamata. But at the end of the day, it's all finite. Tzimtzum, Mitzrayim, Gevuris, the Gevuris he spoke about that produce Malchus. He spoke about the 5 organs of speech that produce words. Shem Elikim, seer of the moon. So it's a wonderful and lofty madrega. There's many levels within this, as we're going to make mention in the next ois. But all of it, summary is, this is a relationship where a person toils and invests, but he doesn't go beyond his limits. Doesn't go beyond his limits. It's immeasurable, graded, progressive avodah as he progresses, in the sense of progressiveness, progressing from one level to the other. And that's the avodah that elicits Hashem's Pana Yelecho Malchus Datzilus, Hishtalshalus, in a word, at its most sublime level, but still Hishtalshalus. At this level, as we'll contrast this with the next avodah of Matana. So the Chitzonim, I don't mention them here, exist, but they are subdued. But they still exist. Then there's the higher. Now let's go to the brackets below the page, because in order for us to appreciate this avodah, he contrasts it with the concealment of Hashem's face. This is all Panai level 1. You see in Matana, there's Panecha even higher. But this is Panai level 1, the face of God, and that's as expressed in Atzilus. In contrast to, in a matziv, and it's in the brackets because it's a contrast. I put it at the bottom of the page. In the matziv of the hastir is Panai. However, in a matziv of Golos, when we're not doing the Avodah Bakshu Panai, God forbid, this transgression and Golos, and I will conceal my face. So what happens then? Malchus Datzilus Einonim Sheches. Malchus Datzilus is not drawn down, uncompromised, derech ma'ivir, in Hishtalshalos, but rather Rakmakif Libria. Bria is the recipient of Malchus Datzilus in a makivdik way. And the Maamor explains that the words Bayoy Mahu refer to the world of Bria, as he explains in the Maamor why. But the Matam Bria Leinim Shaklal. Malchut Atzilus hovers, to use a spatial term, over Bria, but not drawn at all lower than Bria. And in the brackets, Chitzonim Sholtim, the extraneous forces actually get the upper hand. They're not subdued, they get the upper hand in a matzav where Hashem's face is concealed because we are not giving our panimius, we're not serving him as we should. So that's all to contrast the milah of where there is bakshu panai, we're seeking God's face with our panimius, and Hashem responding in kind. So he contrasted that with the matzav where that is not happening, to appreciate the milah when such a revelation is forthcoming. The question, therefore, is what's missing? Why is Moishe Rabbeinu asking further? V'niflinu. In a word, he's asking because in this state, it's beautiful and wonderful, but the chitzonim, a state of godliness where God isn't revealed, exists. It's just not in opposition, but it still exists. So what's required is a much loftier revelation that it reveals the exclusivity of Hashem, not Ishtalshalus. Ishtalshalus reveals the primacy of God, but not the exclusivity of God. That's revealed higher than Ishtalshalus. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu wants to reveal the matter. Now, this hide in Ishtalshalis is reflected in Atzilus itself, as we'll see. So, first of all, Matana is a level of Ein Yitzrosa de Latata Margas, where our Avodah does not reach. It's Das Elyon, it's the uncompromised revelation that comes, that the uncompromised expression of God that is conveyed in his words. Das Elyon, the supernal position, unlike the level of Avodah, the level of Baksho Panai, which is defined by Gevura and Tzimtzum Shem Alekim, because why? It's all limited. Here it's Rabbi Chasodim. So, within Atzilus itself, it's the bligvul property of Atzilus. I didn't mention it, but could have added this. Maybe I'll make another chart later, full chart of the whole Maamor. The Memches, latter permutations, combinations of Shem Alekim, that belongs in the middle category of Avodah. But this is Zoh, this is Chasodim, this is the 72 first combination, 72 and 48, the 120 combinations of the 5 letters named for Shem Alekim. And that's all Chesed and Gilui. Shimsha, that's the body of the sun. And in such a situation, Ein Mokim L'Chitzonim Klal, there's no room at all, no place, no possibility for anything other than godliness. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu's request, Panecha Hilchim, which is higher than Panai, or Pnei. Panecha, your very face, your very inner face. That's Yitzias Mitzrayim. Ishtalshalus is Mitzrayim, but this is Yitzias Mitzrayim. Case to be noted, they just said, you can be asking the question, this is Zoh Atzilus, is that not part of Ishtalshalus? The answer is really not. Atzilus altogether is really beyond a limited divine system. It's only Malchus that's the interface with that. But Zoh remains infinite, essentially. So Zoh reflects Shem Havaya. And that's Veniflinu, that sets us apart completely from all nations upon the face of the earth, in a way of Pella, of wonder, of setting apart fundamentally, because this is a revelation of Shem Havaya, where godliness is revealed and Klippa has no place at all. And that's why this third request of Moshe Rabbeinu, or the second, the first was that should be no angel but you. And now the second request, you, not just Panai, but Panecha. So this is the highest level of Chen. Matzase Chen Beinecha. The diuk is both Chen, because it's a revelation that's totally beyond. It's also gracious. The first graciousness because there's no avodah. The second level of Chen is post avodah and yet totally beyond it. And what is this level? It's a level where the pasuk says that it's a transcendent level before whom all is equal. Yaakov and Esav are equal. Still, the essence, Yaakov, I love Yaakov. Another pasuk, which we said before, Tkiya Shofar, choose us as your inheritance. This is your choice. It's totally beyond our reach and not earned even by the highest avodah. And it's a level where before whom all is equal, and yet you choose Yidden. That's the ultimate chen. That's where we're up to. That's Oisches towards the end. And then the brackets again at the bottom of the page is the contrast of concealment of Panai to the avodah of Baksha Panai, which is the second avodah that termed in our graph here, in our notes here, as avodah. Okay, I hope that is clear. Yeah? Somewhat. Yes, friends? Yeah? Yes, need some feedback. Yeah, okay, good. See, Chaim is on, I didn't see yet. No? David, are you there? Yeah.
I'm here, Rabbi. I'm here.
Yeah, there. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, did this page help?
The explanation very much.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for putting in the time and effort.
Very
And
good
yes-
summary. Very good summary.
What? You're welcome.
Very good summary.
When we finish the Maamor, I'm going to put the whole Maamor in these three categories. It's just going to just match to put it all in with the three. Okay, that's coming soon. The rest of the Maamor will be a lot easier, having all this clear in our heads, God willing. So now let's continue. The Nimtza. The Rebbe himself kind of summarizes for us. So this is top of the page, the final paragraph of h'tשכ. 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph. The Nimtza. So it comes out, Shebaklolis Han Hogus, is in general the way God relates and conducts himself to creation. Yesh Gimel Ifanim, so there are three ways. In ascending order. And it's going to be Yerusha, Avodah, matching, corresponding to the three levels of Torah, which we'll address in the next days. So Yesh Eifan An Hogish Einabad Yedavidis Atachten. There is a way that God conducts himself with us, which is not based on our worthiness, our Avodah, El Rakm Tzada Elyon, but God's grace. This was like Noach. That is the arousal from above that God provides and grants each one of us. That precedes our response from below and empowers it. In fact, begins the process. We're stood from above. About this level of a Noach Motzachein, Noach found favor, the grace in God's eyes. The emphasis here is not his worthiness, but God's grace. Again, at the end of the day, he was a nice person, but there was no avodah. Which implies if you're not nice, then you're not going to be a recipient of such an arousal because you just turned your back on God. Noach didn't turn his back on God, but there was no avodah. So he gets divine grace. Stage 1. Stage 2, he was saved. Then stage 2 is where heaven responds to our avodah. Arousal from below. Summons, arousal from above. The second way of conduct is where God relates to us because and commensurate to our avodah. As a reward. As a reward, he means measure for measure. As he says in the next words, and this is measured proportionate to our avodah. As I mentioned before, there are many levels to this, and the Maamor described a very lofty level. And this conduct based on our avodah can be very lofty because there's many levels of avodah within the person himself, and certainly one person relative in contrast to the other. What's the highest level in avodah? God says, I will lead you and I will relieve you of your enemies because of our avodah, this very lofty level of giving God our pnimius. God relates to us with his face. And what is his face? Malchus of Atzilus. And this revelation comes to us not filtered through ishtalshalos, but in the pure, uncompromised way. A Jew is led by Hashem's face, namely Atzilus, which is a elevated, spiritual, godly, and even miraculous life. But still, it's all tailored and commensurate to our avodah. And Moishe Rabbeinu wants more, because this does not reveal the exclusive reality of Hashem, in the face of which nothing else has any reality. It's still a Mitzrayim of sorts.
Was that the time? Would you say the time of the Beis Hamikdash was the same thing?
Yeah,
because it's not the Gula Mit, because
The Rai is that became after the Churban, which he said before Taka. There were matzovim where there was tranquility and Panei Elecho, and then afterwards it was Beis Avodim. 3 means Churban Beis Hamikdash. Yeah. So Moshe Rabbeinu once more, he wants the embassy, it's Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying there's a limit to our avodah and our davening and learning, and there it's all at the end of the day we're limited. So Eibishter, you've got to reveal yourself as you are, the purest absolute form, and not just relative to our avodah, but moreover, the Rebbe adds here, this third level doesn't come in a vacuum. It comes only after we have been the recipients of Panei Elecho, and it's according to the shleimus of our avodah. Once you've given it your all, then the Tosef Oid Yosef. Then what's added even more is the gift and the true grace. And this is a grace that's not like the original one, where there's absolutely no avodah at all. This is a grace that comes after avodah, but totally beyond it. That's what Yas Matzasi Chen Beinecha. The true Chen. And that will draw down your very essence, your face, higher than Malchut Atzilus. You will walk with us, he spells it out for us, which is Panei Elecho, till it's mamish the very essence of Atzilus. Not this, the seer, or not the moon, the reflective level. Malchus, which is the reflective level built by Gevurah, it's limited. Malchus is already connected to Ishtalshalos, but rather Gufa de Shimsha, the very body of the sun itself. The Rebbe doesn't stop here. The P'chinas Atzmus Mamish, the essence of the sun, which is the Moir, if you like, in it is invested the very essence alone, Yesh Amiti, the true being. From where comes the divine choice in Yidden? From this level is expressed, choose us as your inheritance, the excellency of Yaakov, that you love Selah unto eternity. And the other pasuk he quoted earlier, Vayvis Yaakov Dafka, and even though Yaakov and Esav are equal, because in the face of the infinite of Atzmos all is equal, and yet I've chosen Vayvis Yaakov, I choose Yaakov. This is, by the way, reflected in Avram's life also. Very bekitzer. In the famous landmark Sicha, I make it very bekitzer. The Rebbe asks, how is it that the Torah does not explain in any way at the scriptural level in Torah Shebiksav who Avram is, that God singles him out and makes with him a promise that he did not, in a covenant that God did not make with any human being before or since, eternal people, eternal land, etc. Who is this person? And in Torah Shebal Peh and the Medrash, it's replete of his extraordinary accomplishments, discovery of God, ready to die for it. And his impact endures till this very day. No person in history influenced history as humanity as Avram did, by far. And all of this was done before he was 75 years old even. And yet the Torah is completely silent, notwithstanding that the Torah Shebal Peh is replete with all the midrashim and the stories. Why is the Torah silent? It's mamish this point. Because that whole Avodah till now was Panei Elecho. Was Avodah still beautiful, wonderful, discovered God, the Creator, but it was still all commensurate to his Avodah. The Yid begins with the true Matzah Chen Beinecha, which is a gift from above that's totally beyond our Avodah. Therefore, the Torah is deliberately silent. You shouldn't think what he did till now earned. Vayemer Hashem al Avram melech lecha. No, that's the Bechira in Yidden, that's the Yivcha Alonos es Nachalatzena, es Yaakov Asher Oiv Selah. It's all reflected in the Avodah of the Ovis, and Avram in particular, as explained in Chassidus, that they were the template of all that would come in the future. Ma'aseh V'Sid L'Bonim. So his whole story is reflective of these three levels. The two levels of avoda and matana. And of course, it all began because God empowered him. So there was the Yerusha that started it all. Now, continuing as this all translates in Torah. Yeah, clear this point. It's a made dikasicha. There's also some other profound ramifications of this nekuda. Nobody is more or less deserving of a mitzvah. It's God's gift that comes equally to all of us. And if I told you, remember, I'll tell you briefly, many years ago, the early days in Shalmini, so fascinatingly enough, a young man comes to see me, sent to me by the Yeshiva Gedola, Rabbonim, Rosh Yeshiva, whatever it was. They sent him to me. Chassidus, you philosophy, Chassidus. So he used to come to Shalmini and we would sit and learn. Today, he's sitting in the Kollel in Yerushalayim, as he has been now for some 40 plus years. Anyway, we had a very interesting time together. Brilliant young man, married. And one day I'll tell you, remind me if I bring to tell you more details of the story in our relationship. So we made an experiment. It's to go to all the Rosh Yeshivas and the Rabbonim and ask 2 questions. Actually, I think there was a third, but I don't recall the third. Number 1, what's a Yid? What's a Jew? Define a Yid. Number 2, is there any value taking a Jew off the street who's not observant of Torah mitzvahs and doesn't seem like he will be, there's no intention to be, and putting tefillin on him? So the answers came back, as you can expect, the predictable answers. In terms of what is a Jew, nobody said a Yid is someone as an neshama that they wish to bequeathed. How do you know he has it if his mother's Jewish? That's brought him. Everybody came and he believes he does a whole maisa, a whole quantifiable, defined description of what defines a Jew, and Munah and mitzvahs and Torah. As for putting on tefillin on a Freie Yid, a disgrace to the tefillin. He hasn't deserved or earned it. And I'm telling you, I was told by Bachrim, a certain Bacher, he was in the famous Baal Tshuva Yeshiva in Yerushalayim, as Eish HaTorah, and for weeks and weeks, and no one asked him to put on tefillin. In fact, it was expected he should not put on tefillin. You're not ready to put on tefillin. You have to learn and appreciate, etc. So this is Al Derech, the Avodah of Avraham, before the Eibusher revealed himself to him. This is a finite God. This is a creator. Yiddishkeit is a philosophy, an ideology. It's the highest. It's beautiful. It's holy. It's God. As opposed to matana. Everything is a gift that comes from the Eibusher, and it comes equal to every year. And it's not a question of being less deserving or more deserving. It's the Eibusher's bechira. I mean, the Shulchan Aruch reflects that. The behavior is not justified by Shulchan Aruch. Every year is mechuyev to put on tefillin, no matter what he did the day before, the minute before. But, that's the theory of the Shulchan Aruch. But if your Judaism is a philosophy, an ideology, and a lifestyle, then what connection do you have to this lifestyle? You're desecrating it by being a hypocrite, and you put on tefillin, they're eating treif. It's missing the whole matana. The whole nekuda pchira, the whole nekuda of who the Eibusher is. It really comes down who is God. The God they're relating to is a divine, intelligent, super being. That's the God they relate to. That's not the Eibusher. It's Musi, his Baruch is beyond all definition and all boundary, and he's beyond creator. It's the Heilige Bashef. He's not a creator. And Torah mitzvahs is the expression of him, and that's Yitzias Mitzrayim, is explains in the Maamor, beyond all limits, even the limits of Kedusha and Seichel and Ishtalshalos, etc.
But Avram went till Mesiras Nefesh, which we usually count is already past Seichel.
What's that?
Avram went to the point of Mesiras Nefesh, like the Payal, which is usually what we say is past The
different
philosophy and the
yeah,
seichel.
yeah. Let's explain it. That's a Mesilas Nefesh based on. There's many people that have Mesilas Nefesh for their ideologies. So it's still sof kasof based on seichel. Life is just not worth living if it's going to be a denial of the Creator, etc. Mesilas Nefesh can also have a cheshbon. Lo pashut, because the others were a curious mixture of pre-modern Torah and also post-Bedakus. So it's all integrated. At any rate, so we're just saying, yeah,
Especially Avram being a Merkava, so it's like
yeah. It's a Makovat Atzilus, yeah. All integrated, it's all subtle. Okay, so we'll stop here, tell you the story, today's story. And we'll continue Beit Hashem tomorrow, his test, when he starts to explain the three. Let's do the first paragraph. Everything comes from Torah. It says this is the opening statement of Medrash Rabbah, Bereshis Rabbah. Torah says, I was Kliyum Nasai, the tools, the artists and tools of the Eibishter. And the Medrash continues. The way the world works is with Melabas Vadam Beina Paltin. So a king builds a palace, Midas Uman, and he gets the craftsman to do so. The Uman and the craftsman, he uses Diftaroyas, Upinkasoyas, tablets and charts. Yeshloi. He has. So the Medrash includes so too. This is based on the pasuk Voy Etzloi Oman. We made a whole Maamor on this. Hashem looked into Torah and created the world. K'mayim talk about Isa. Well, Bara Alma looked into Torah, says the Zohar, and created the world. So Mazam Muvan Shagam Torah Yeshem Dugmas Gimli Fan Anogas Anogim Elamayla Anal. Torah too reflects these three ways that Hashem relates to us. Number one, this Torah that is given to us as a gift on its own, pre-avodah, pre-everything. Then two, it's a level of Torah that a Jew connects to through his avodah. It's a third level of Torah. Then it's the third level that a Yid gets in Torah, which is a way of gift that comes totally beyond his avodah, but only after his avodah. And it's going to explain the three levels of Torah based on Hashem tomorrow.